Diary of a Sociopathic Mother-in-Law Next Door entry. Today's date is Friday the 13th of June 2025. Unlucky for some. Me and the Beacon got married on Friday the 13th. Nothing wrong with the number 13. So anyway, in the last update, we ended after the Keswick and the direct debit debacle, the standing order debacle, and I confronted her about it. And one thing I forgot to mention during that confrontation, I was just, there's a few things brought up. I can't remember exactly how the conversations went. I just remember the key bits. But in amongst it, again, I'm saying to her, why do you not appreciate everything your daughter's done for you? Why do you treat her the way you do? And I brought up, the fact that we've built and paid for this lodge for her. She thinks she's bought that. She hasn't. She thinks she owns it, but she doesn't. She thinks it's her money, but it's not. And I felt these are not the sort of things you want to have to point out, but I just felt I'm not going to have her believing in fallacies. So I said to her, who bought this? Who owns it? Well, I own the contents. I said, right, but who owns it? Well, you. I said, who paid for it? Well, you paid for some. I said, no. I said, it was X thousands of pounds. You, 70% of the money came from you selling your house. 30% of the money came from our life savings. 70-30. Yeah? I said, but where did your money come from? Selling my house. I said, so what was in your will in relation to your house? I haven't got a will. You just think, blimey, there's never a straight answer, is there? You haven't got a will. You're in your late 60s, hitting 70, and you haven't got a will. Blimey. This is the level of ignorance. So anyway, I said, right, okay, if you had a will, what would have happened to the house? Eventually, she said, well, it would go to stepdad. Oh, God. Why are you just putting blockers in the way? You know what the answer is. It just takes like baby steps to get there. What happens when stepdad no longer needed the house? Goes to the girls. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You finally answered the question. I said, right. So when you sold the house, what did you do with the other half? I'll give it to Roadkill. Yeah, and you give half to the Beacon. Right. So, and then the Beacon use that money to pay off 70% of the cost of the build. Yeah. What did Roadkill do with her half? Which now, you understand, it is their inheritance. It's not a gift. It's their inheritance and they're getting it early. So what did Roadkill do with her half? I don't know. Right, okay, well, round about the time you gave her this big chunk of money, well, it's not a huge chunk of money, but, it is. It's a one-off payment. So what did Beacon do soon around the time of receiving this money? She bought a motorhome. Right? She doesn't know where I'm going with this because she's thick. I said, right, do you own that motorhome? No. Right. Do you own this lodge? She can't see that So I said to her, now do you see? Beacon spent her inheritance on you. Not on her, on you. Not on any material gains, not in any luxurious holidays or vehicles. You, to improve your lifestyle in the twilight of your life. That's what she spent her inheritance on. Normally, kids get the inheritance when the parent dies. But you've been fortunate enough to give them their inheritance when you're alive, so you can see them enjoy it. So you can see Roadkill enjoying her inheritance. And the Beacon has spent her inheritance on trying to watch you enjoy the rest of your life. That's how amazing she is. Not only has she spent her entire inheritance on you, but that wouldn't happen if you were dead. Obviously, she spent her whole entire inheritance on you. She's also spent half of her life savings, the other half being mine. Collectively, we spent our everything on you. Everything. To give you a better life and to take away your stresses and to try and make you happy, and you're never happy. And that's, see, it's about happiness, not about money. It's about happiness. I could have quite happily just left you where you were. You were doomsday predictions, worrying about stuff that was probably never going to come to fruition. I don't know why you did it. I don't know why you had those fake tears when we were in the caravan back in whenever it was, 2019 maybe. I don't know why you had those fake tears, but it worked. So anyway, I'm at this home, but there's nothing, the lights are on, but there's nobody home. The eyes are just glazed over, and she just can't get it. And again, everything's the Beacon's fault. So, this is quite a rushed exchange, because we were just about to go away for 2 days to go and see a pop band with our daughter. This is her sort of belated Christmas present. We're on the train, first class, got tickets off, good friend of ours, first class for next to nothing. Treat her, a night in a hotel, go and see the pop band, go for a nice meal and have a lovely couple of days, just the three of us. I didn't go to the gig. No, I've made that mistake before. I went for everything else, but not the gig. So anyway, that's why it was a rushed conversation, because we had to leave. And catch a train. So anyway, for the next couple of days, on this little mini break of ours, it's just everything's playing on my mind. I can't quite put it to bed, because you never feel like you put anything to bed with her. You never actually get anywhere. So you always just feel leaving empty. So mulling things over in my mind for these 2 days, I'm still able to enjoy myself with me family. Had a great couple of days, but on the train home, I'm sitting typing out a text, and then eventually, we're nearly getting home. It's only a short train journey, an hour or so. I'm nearly home and I'm thinking, what are you doing? She's never going to read it properly. Whenever you send her a long, meaningful text, she always just deflects and never responds to the actual criticism or the main points in the text. So it's pointless. It's pointless. She doesn't have the mental capacity. She doesn't have the empathy. She doesn't have the emotional intelligence. It's totally pointless. So I just said to myself, right, I'm going to wait till we get home. The beacon is going to have to jump in the car and go and pick the dog up from the kennel. Because see, we haven't even got somebody to look after the dog because we just don't trust her. Nothing's functioning normally. Normally you'd say, well, you just look after the dog for the night. This is how ridiculous it is. So anyway, Beacon's going to have to go and pick the dog up. I'm going over there. I'm just going to get a few things off my chest. So that's exactly what happened. Beacon goes off. She won't mind us going over. She know, I'm not sneaking behind her back. She'll come back and she'll know I'm there, which is exactly what happened. So anyway, I go over and say to her, have you thought about anything I said to you the other day? Anything you want to say? And I can't remember exactly what she said. I mean, she said, yes, I have, but she didn't really come up with anything profound. So we had, there was 2 acts, Act 1 and Act 2, to this conversation. The first act was I'm going to call it the physical domain, where all you're bickering about is trivial stuff. He said, she said, you did, they did. Trivial, physical things, actions, things that you actually do that annoy people. And in Act 1, in the physical domain, I couldn't get anywhere. Nowhere at all. So I was almost ready to leave. Again, just blaming the beacon. Well, if she doesn't like my behaviour, she should tell us. Total immature approach to being somebody's mother. I'm not going to change my behaviours. She needs to change hers. Pathetic. And trying to explain to her the dynamic of how a mother should be with her daughter is just I think I've said this. Why is a 49-year-old man trying to explain this to a woman who's had 2 children and has been on the planet for 73 years? It's ridiculous. So anyway, I couldn't get anywhere in Act 1. So in my mind, I'm just about to get up and just give up, empty again. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to try a different tactic. Because something needs to be fixed here. I'm sick of going on like this. So I brought up something that she told us in the past. And the reason I brought it up was because instead of arguing about symptoms, i.e. what you do in the physical world, i.e. your behaviours, they're the symptoms of your thoughts. Instead of talking and arguing about symptoms, I thought I'm going to try and get the root cause here. So I said to her, why? You know what I think? I think you do not trust us. I think that's why you behave the way you do. So of course I trust you. Because she thinks trust on a superficial level. I said, yeah. In the physical world, you trust us. You trust us not to, to do the right thing by, in terms of keep you secure, keep going to work so we can pay for your lifestyle, keep the roof over your head, keep it maintained. You trust us that we're not going to burgle your property when you're not in, steal stuff like what you do. You trust us that we're not going to physically abuse you. Yeah, you trust us. That's all superficial stuff. Nonsense. Well, it's not nonsense, but that's not what trust. It's only half of what trust is about. I said to her, you don't really trust us to do the right thing. What do you mean? Because as soon as you try and get away from the physical domain and into the emotional, or even the spiritual, if that's what you want to call it, the hidden, she doesn't know how to have a conversation because she's completely, what's the word? Her brain just doesn't function. She doesn't have an emotional side to her brain. She only has basic logic, no emotions, no creativity, no imagination. So, I said to her, well, can you remember when you told me the story? So here's the story. I don't think I've told this yet. I may have touched on it, but I needed to leave it for this exact point. So, I said to her, when you told me the story about a year or so ago in the bar when you were drunk, tipsy, because that's when she let her guard down, about when you had your firstborn died. So this story, her firstborn died after 2 weeks. As soon as it was born, they knew it was going to die. Whatever this condition it had, can't remember the name. Nobody knew up until the point of birth, so everything was normal. And then when the baby was born, it died. They knew it was going to die very soon. It died after 2 weeks. So cold. Obviously, I've got to be careful with names here. I'm not disclosing any names. So you'll get what I'm saying here. That baby was called Beacon. Same as my wife. That was the name of the baby, Beacon. Same name as my wife. When the baby died, they had like a little service or a little commemorative plaque or whatever. Don't know the full details in terms of, you'll understand why in a second. They changed its name, so they called it, let's just say, they called it, I don't know, Julie. So the baby died with a different name to what it was born with. Obviously, it was always registered, by the time, I don't know how these things work when a baby dies so soon after birth, but it would have, does it still get a birth certificate? Anyway, on all of the paperwork would have been Julie, but actually it was called Beacon. So, and the reason they did this is what I find weird, was to put that name, the Beacon, on hold and try again. I just think that's weird. That name should die with that little baby, because that's who that baby should always be. It lived. I think that's quite sick. It actually brings a little lump to my throat thinking of that little Beacon. It only had 2 weeks in this world, and they just disregarded its name. I think it's really, really sad for the baby. Weird thing to do. So, and then along comes the next one. They'll just try straight away. Along comes the next one and they call it Beacon. That's the Beacon of the story. Oh no, they're not. She's got no expectations to live up. Remember, a baby is perfect. Absolute perfection. No wonder the Beacon has to live up to perfection. Can you see the subconscious level of what's going on here? This is the expectations the Beacon has to live up to perfection. So anyway, baby died. Beacon number 1 died. Obviously. So I'm asking her, and this confrontation we're having, now she starts to open up. I'm now hitting on a sensitive subject, and it's a bit more, having a bit more connection with her. So, because nobody's ever had these conversations with her before, because the family's completely dysfunctional. So I said to her, that must have been horrible, what was it like? And she told me how traumatic it was, and she was just absolutely in pieces, and which I can well imagine. She would have been about 25, and the brain isn't fully formed until around about the age 25. So she might have even still been in the development phase, the last stages of brain development, when she had a huge trauma such as this. But as we'll soon see, her childhood was, well, what I would just call it abusive. But anyway, come back to that. So she's telling me about how traumatic it was and how broken she was, and the family didn't know what to do with her, understandably. And this is back in the early 70s, when families were even dumber than they are now, even more dysfunctional. Don't talk about anything, put on a brave face for the Joneses, let everybody outside think that this family is perfect, no scandals, no skeletons. Yeah, I can well imagine they didn't know how to deal with you. So what they did was, she was in her bedroom, or in the kids' bedroom, every single day, having obviously an emotional breakdown. And obviously the bedroom would have all been decked out, clothes, furniture, decorations. And one day somebody came and took her out for the day, said, Howie, let's get you out of the house. And she tells the story that she knew something was going on, because nobody had done that. And then all of a sudden somebody was coming to take them out for the day, but it wasn't her husband or her mum or dad. Can't remember who it was. So she was suspicious. And then she returned from that day out, and let me just try and open this gate before I continue, because it's an important part of the story. So she returned from that day out, and in her words, the family had had a secret funeral without her. And then when she was out, they emptied the entire bedroom of the baby, cleared everything out and got rid of it, every single last thing. So can you imagine the double trauma? What they've done to her there? It's sick, absolutely sick. She comes home, she's got no more memories. She hasn't got any visual memories, and she hasn't got any smell memories, and she's got nothing to remember this little baby beacon. It's just absolutely heartbreaking what they did to her. And I'm saying this to her, and normally you can never ever say a bad word against her family, her mum and dad and her brother. But I said to her, I think it's disgusting what they did to you. And I think if they were in front of us now, I'd tell them to their face that what they did to you was disgusting. And she was almost pleased, happy that I was saying those things. I mean, maybe she was just enjoying the attention, the victim mentality. But I wanted to say these things because I was trying to get to a point. And I said the person I blame the most is your husband at the time, which was the beacon's natural father. I blame him because he was your husband. She said, well, he probably never had a say in it. And I said, no, he's always got a say in it. He should have said, no, you're not doing this. This is my wife's home, mine and my wife's home, and this is my wife's, has to be in on this decision. That's what he should have said, but he didn't, because he's a coward. Absolute coward. And he just let it happen. And I said to her, what's happened there, in my opinion, is you've been completely let down by your nearest and dearest, your husband, your brother, your mum and your dad. They've completely trampled all over your emotions, and the people you should be able to trust most in your life have completely betrayed you. That'll have a long-lasting traumatic effect on you. So on a level, a deep level, subconscious, you've buried that trauma so deep, so you don't have to face up to how bad these people are and how bad they've treated you. You've buried it, and then you've created, to protect that girl, that little girl, that young lady inside, 25 years old, is still in there. Never dealt with those emotions because you weren't allowed to. You weren't allowed to go through the stages of grief. You just had to grin and bear it, carry on regardless. Like the old British mentality. Whatever it is, drink tea and carry on. Whatever the official slogan, wherever it comes from. But anyway, yeah, that's what you had to do. You've never grieved. Inside there is a grieving. It's frozen in time. That 25-year-old is frozen in time in your subconscious, and it needs to come out and grieve, but it's hidden behind, protected behind a husk. A 50-year-old hardened, baked husk, which is there to do a job, to protect that broken young woman from any more emotional traumas and any more complete letdowns by the people who she should be most able to trust in her life. That's what the husk is there to protect. And I didn't exactly explain it like that, but words to that effect. I said, that's why you don't trust us, because you don't trust anybody. You don't even trust yourself. I didn't say that bit to her, but I said that's why you don't trust us. That's why I believe you don't trust us, because everything. That's why you can't ask for help. That's why you can't show your vulnerable side. That's why you can't trust us with your true feelings on things. That's why you can't tell us when you're unhappy. That's why you go silent, because you don't trust anybody. It explains so many things, and that's why you've built the husk, to protect you. That's why you let nobody in. You're guarded. And to be fair, she seemed to be getting it. But what you've got to remember is, she just agrees with anything. As long as it's not hurty, as long as it's not hurting her feelings, because obviously they're well guarded, then she just agrees. As long as she thinks she's getting something out of it. Oh, we're not arguing anymore. He's now talking about my victim mentality. But he's treating us like a victim, so it's all good. So anyway, she then starts speaking about when her husband left her. Knob father, Beacon's natural dad, he left her for another woman. Although this is her side of the story. The knob father's is different. So anyway, according to the husk, the knob father was having an affair with his secretary from work, who happens, this has been confirmed by the Beacon, his secretary did have the same name as his now wife, as the wicked stepmother, same name. So, you know, there's circumstantial evidence to support it. But who'll never know the truth with these liars? So anyway, the husk is telling us about when the knob father left her for another woman. Everything was great in their house. I mean, it wasn't great, was it? Because you were suffering from this huge trauma. But anyway, they had the best house on the street. Had 2 young girls, Beacon and Roadkill, ages 4 and 6, whatever. The first 6 years of Beacon's life, 6 and a bit years. Best house. That's where all the parties went on. That's where all of the other couples came to swing. Came to have parties. They always came to their house. Knob father could play the keyboard, so they all used to sing songs in the living room. Proper 80s cheese kind of stuff. That's how people socialised back in the day. And the husk thought this was great, cause she did, because it was status. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going to assume that her story is correct, that he had an affair, started having an affair. I don't know why. Knowing the knob father, I can imagine he just got sick of her. Because I think even she's admitted she put her children before a relationship too much. Well, yeah, because you probably deep down resent him and hate him for what he's done to you. I mean, how these people have kids in these states? Get your head right before you have kids. But yeah, you probably resent him for what he's done to you. You probably, I don't even know if you wanted to have any more children after that trauma. Did he even want to have children in the first place? How many people do things just because it's the done thing? I wouldn't put it past her to just have kids because it's the done thing. Keep the man, keep the resource, the knob father, keep the status, trap him with a couple of kids. Nothing controversial about that. As in me saying that, happens all the time. So anyway, I can imagine he's just sick of her because she's a husk. So, and she's always just resented people who get equal loyalty from other people. Like she resented stepdad because he got equal loyalty from us. She can't stand it when people get equal. She has to be the best. So anyway, he's decided to leave, have an affair, and then he's actually left. And this is what she's told me, this bit of this story. She's telling us this story again. She's told me this before, but she reiterated it. She begged him to leave, to stay. Begged him. Literally, her words, I literally begged him just till the girls were 16. What? So they're 10 years. Even to the point where she accepted that he would just be with another woman. You can have your affair, but please just, for the purpose of our image, I mean, she may have dressed it up as for the betterment of the kids, but I believe it was for the image. She doesn't want to deal with the shame of being a broken family. So begged him, even on condition, with the condition that he can still have a mistress. I mean, it's disgusting. What's he's going to come home to the marital home every night, kiss his kids, and then get into your bed after he's been in her bed? Is that your proposal, is it? What, you don't think the kids are going to pick up on that? You don't think the kids will pick up that something's not right in the atmosphere? This is how dumb she is. But she said, her words, I felt really ashamed of myself begging, so you should have. And totally ashamed. And I think about it, what would the feeling have been when they had that secret funeral? She would have felt guilty and shame that she hasn't done the right thing by her daughter. First one, she might blame herself for it dying. I can imagine a mother feeling guilt, even if there is none, ought to be there. So she probably feels guilt and shame from that event. Now she feels guilt and shame begging her husband to stay. Obviously you should feel guilty because you're completely betraying yourself, and you should feel ashamed of yourself because it's disgusting. And then she said, hiya. And then she said, and then when he said no, i.e. no, I'm not staying, then she felt even more shameful because it hadn't even worked. I think, blimey. Yeah, I can imagine that. You've completely wasted that shameful act. It didn't even work. Now you feel it double down shame. So now you're starting to see how the husk has been created. Everybody, our nearest and dearest, has let her down. People that you should be able to trust the most, it's completely betrayed her trust. Even herself has let herself down. She's completely betrayed herself. No self-respect. Somebody who does that. So there you go. We spoke about that. She reminded me about the begging story, and then I just sort of pieced it all together in my head, thinking, yeah, that's why you are the way you are, because you've got no trust left in your life. Every ounce of trust has been completely sucked out of you, and that's left the soulless husk, a shell to protect that inner girl, little girl, young woman who so desperately needs a loving arm. And that's what I came out of that conversation with. Now, the conversation, she kind of got what I was saying, and she could kind of see why she seemed to be clicking things together, and she could maybe see why she behaves the way she behaves. So I felt positive. But blimey, I'd been there for like 2 hours. Can't go through 2 hours of therapy every single time she does something cruel. So anyway, I'm just about to leave. I say, right, I'm pleased we ended up having a better conversation. I feel a little bit more positive, and I don't know why. I just feel like I've helped her realise that her behaviours can be changed. That's what I was saying. Your behaviours of lack of trust have left you with nobody in your life that you can trust. You're even losing us. You're not going to have us soon, because your behaviours and your decisions determine how your life pans out. So because you don't trust anybody, you're just going to be left with people you can't trust. And that's why you're losing us, because we only operate in relationships where trust is mutual. We're losing trust in you, and you've never trusted us. So she seems to understand that she creates her own reality, and all of the decisions in her life have led her to where she is today. Obviously there was a lot more to it, but that was the general gist. Change your thinking, you change your future. So anyway, I'm just about to leave. I feel a bit more positive. Been there a couple of hours. And just as I'm about to leave, she says to us, You definitely won't like us when you remember about my abortion. And I stopped. And what? I'm thinking in my head, what? Your abortion? I don't know about any abortion. And so I'm stuck for words. I said to her, why did you say when you remember? It's an odd way of putting it when she hasn't told me something. She hasn't told anybody, as it turns out. I said, am I supposed to know this? Have you told me this? I said to her, have you told me this? She went, no. Why did he use that word then? Because she doesn't know how to broach things. But it was the way that she just desperately stopped us from leaving. So she had to tell me this thing. The abortion. For the next episode, I think.